So, Vin, you know what I find interesting? You met Ronnie James Dio for the first time in Sabbath when you got there, and of course, it started a long friendship and playing with him. Obviously, going on to Dio with him and everything else. So you didn't know him
Right.
prior to Sabbath, huh? I'm kind of surprised by that, given that he had a history in music, and of course, even at that young age, you did as well.
Yeah, it was. Like I said, like Rainbow. Rainbow was a band that was really big in Europe, but not quite as big in the U.S. So I was listening to Zeppelin and Hendrix and things like that, and I've heard Rainbow, and I've heard of Ronnie, especially that the name Dio, in Italian means God, and it was like, wow, that's a cool name. But I didn't follow him, and so I didn't really know his whole history. I knew Long Live Rock and Roll, Man on the Silver Mountain, but I didn't really follow him. Same with Sabbath. Sabbath, I heard all the music, and I wasn't a huge fan of Sabbath. I was a fan, but I was more of a fan of Zeppelin. And probably the reason for that was the drum sound. The drum sound on the Sabbath records were really dead-sounding drums. Bill Ward's drums on those first couple albums, very small, but effective, It's a great sound to fit the album. But I was into more what Bonham was doing with the big room sound and the big drum sound, because my brother was doing more of the big drum sound as well. So I like drums that were sounding big and noisy. So that's why I didn't catch on to Sabbath like I should have. But and when I first heard it, I thought it was the scariest thing I've ever heard. My friend played me the first album. I went, "Oh my God!" And then I looked at the pictures, and I went, "Oh my God!" And the names, Ozzy. What's Ozzy? That's somebody's name. Even Iommi was kind of menacing the way it's spelled, and So anyway, so when I met Ron, all of a sudden it's like we hit it off. Like he's from New York. He's 15 years older than I am, but we hit it off, and we liked the same kind of food, and all of a sudden we were like, we got a lot of things in common. Whereas Tony and Geezer, I couldn't understand what they were saying, because they're from Birmingham with a heavy accent, and I've never been out of the country really, or around a lot of British people, and they would talk, and I'd be going, "Oh man." I'd ask Ronnie, what did they say? So he
translated.
Mentor, Yeah, he translated for me, and they got a kick out of it. And then eventually, obviously, I got to get used to how the accent worked and how they thought and how it worked, and it was smooth, But it was really funny. I couldn't understand them, like what? So luckily, Ronnie, was so nice and took me under his wing, and that was. If he was an asshole, it would have been a hard thing to be doing, not understanding Tony and Geezer, and then if Ronnie wasn't very nice, it would have been a little bit uncomfortable, But everybody was great, and it was just felt right, and it got better and better.
Do you feel that it's interesting hearing you talk about your feelings about Sabbath and your awareness of their music prior to you joining the band, because not only are you trying to learn at the time this new album Heaven and Hell for the tour, but it sounds like you probably needed a crash course in the old songs they were still playing from the Ozzy era at that point. How did you attack that, and how did you interpret what you wanted to do with all of that material until Mob Rules had been played by Bill? So were you just looking to be totally faithful to what he played, or as a drummer, did you try to you want to put a little of your own stamp in it as well?
Well, that's a good question, because Bill has a unique style, and we're two different drummers. I'm a different drummer than Bill. Bill always said he was a percussionist, and if you listen to those first couple of albums, there's like percussion parts in it. And, I got to give you credit. That's very creative coming up with drum parts like that rather than playing right straight through it. Anybody could play straight through a part, but to come up with a cool drum lick or maybe a tom thing, that's more creative. And that's what Ringo did. That people think Ringo's not very good, right? Listen to those parts on those albums. They're fantastic, you know? So I had to listen and listen and listen and learn those songs. And then I kind of took the main parts that Bill did and copied them. And then I put myself in between. So it was a little of both. So they felt comfortable. Tony and Geezer felt comfortable on that old stuff. And I could not have to worry about every single little part, you know. And then I adopted myself into it, how I would play it with those important parts intact. And that worked. It seemed to work good. But those old albums, the tempos changed, the time signatures changed. You know, there's some things in there that you count 1, 2, 3, 4 and a half, and it comes in. You know, and that's because they played together since they were young, Tony, Bill, and Geezer, and they play as one, and it could be whatever timing or tempo it is, and they just knew how to do it, you know. So I had to adopt to that. But I did learn how to play more laid back playing with them.
You know, I imagine Mob Rules. It's a whole different ballgame then, because by then you've got some experience, some comfort level around these guys. You've got some live shows under your belt. Then when you go in to make that record and do the tour for that, I imagine it was a way more comfortable thing for you.
Yeah, that was time to rip. That was like, all right, now I'm going to rip it up. But I still kept in mind that I'm playing with Black Sabbath. And, you know, I'm not going to do too many crazy things. I'm going to lay it down. There's even ways I played accents that sounded very Sabbath-like. Instead of using a snare drum, I might have just used the cymbals. There were certain things I adapted that made it sound a little darker, which is what I wanted it to sound like with them, because it still was Black Sabbath. And kept it locked in, a little behind the beat, you know, and it seemed to work really well. But it was definitely time to rip it up a little bit. Now I could play more like me, put more energy into it, and kick the band in the ass a little bit, you know, because that's usually what I do, is kick the band in the ass from what I'm told, you know. So because I like to play hard and I like to play loud. So that's what I did, you know, and I just kept my style more on the dark side and made it fit, you know. And they never said anything like, maybe you shouldn't play that, or, you know, maybe once in a blue moon that was said by anybody. They let me do my thing. They had trust in me. And I used to play, you know, sometimes over the vocal line. Ronnie never said anything, you know, especially in Holy Diver. I play all over the place, you know. The vocals, he inspired me. I'd go crazy when he's hitting a note, and I'll go, ah! Ronnie never said, hey, you don't play over my vocal line. So they really let me do anything I wanted. So luckily I took the right approach, you know, kept it on the dark side, and it fit in, you know, it fit in well. So
do you have a favorite track on Mob Rules?
I like Turn Up the Night, and I like Mob Rules. I like them all, but Turn Up the Night's really cool. I like that song, and of course Mob Rules. Mob Rules just sums it all up, you know. Such a ripping song.
And I always thought Sign of the Southern Cross was the Mob Rules Heaven and Hell. I always thought they're very similar to me in their epicness.
Yes. Well, the speed, the tempos are similar, and it was very, very heavy, you know, and you could hear those chords that the way Tony plays chords is like nobody plays. Could hit the same chord as Tony and let it sound like Tony sounds. You know, there's just something the way he plays, his little vibrato. It just sounds evil, you know. And that song was like Heaven and Hell, wide open with a big bass drum sound in there from Martin Birch and Ronnie's voice over that. It was incredible. So,
you know, another track. Another track on Mob Rules that I thought was really cool and has a really interesting drum pocket in it is Slipping Away, song that's more of an album cut people don't talk about, but I always thought that was a really cool showcase for you. I love the way you play on that track.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that's an interesting song because the rhythm, doom, doom, ba, 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 doom, ba, it's almost a little funk to it, you know?
Yeah.
R&B to it. And I was following Geezer on that, and that's what felt right. And it really worked, you know, but it was an unusual song. It's not a straight ahead 2/4 drum beat or that kind of rhythm. It's more of a funky thing, you know, and it worked well, you know. So I came up with that just following the bass, and we locked in, and then the rest just came naturally, you know. So.
And another sleeper on Mob Rules that I absolutely love is the last track, Over and Over. Ronnie's vocal is just ridiculous on it, and then you've got, so because it's more of a bluesy, slow thing. When you put fills in there and stuff, it just takes up. You know, I'm like you. I love big drums. It's just so big and loud and full, and it just. Yeah. I love that track. That's one of those songs that both songs, Slipping Away, Over and Over, songs that people. Definitely album tracks that you don't normally hear, but just great records and great songs. And Over and Over to me is just epic. I just love the sound of that. And Ronnie's voice is unreal on that.
Yeah, Ronnie's is pouring his heart out in that song, and it's just unbelievable the way he could sing like that. And Over and Over is more like less is more, you know, like for me, for drums. Not too many fills, but when you do them,
yes,
they're big and huge, and just brings it to the next part. You know, it's more of locking in because it is like a blues song, and I love playing that song. That was a great song. We never did it. I don't think we ever did it live. You know, we didn't do it, but we all loved it. But it's an unusual song too. It was like that kind of feel in a blues thing going on with Black Sabbath. So, but it all worked.
Hey, what are your thoughts on the Live Evil record? Because it was a controversial record, and in the sense that people say it led to Ronnie leaving the band and fighting over the mix and all that. As the drummer in the band, what were your thoughts about that record?
Well, you know, I was the new guy on the block, the low man on the totem pole. I just went along with whatever, you know. So what happened was we recorded the live stuff, and we were set to mix it. I believe it was at the record plant in Los Angeles, and that's where Ronnie and I live. And it was scheduled to start in the afternoon, and Ronnie we lived close together, so it was like, well, let's ride together, you know. We always did that, Ronnie and I. So we rode down to the studio, and then Tony and Geezer weren't there at that time. So Ronnie waited around, but he doesn't like to waste time and stuff. So he wanted to start getting a leg up on the mixes and this and that and this and that. And that got blown out of proportion to like when Tony and Geezer got there, they wanted to change things. So I can't really say what exactly happened, but they weren't happy with each other, you know. So I'm in the middle, like, okay. But Ronnie's always like that. You know Ronnie. He's not going to go and sit around waiting very long. He'd think, well, let's get something done. Like maybe get the drums up and see what they sound like. And so really it wasn't trying to mix it himself, put it that way. He was just trying to get a leg up on what was going on. And then when Tony and Geezer got there, everybody puts their input in. But I think things were bad, a little bit rotten at that time. So it didn't work as planned.
And I imagine, Vin, that was probably around the time, especially you guys are getting close, riding together to the studio. Was that around the time that he talked to you about, I'm going to go do my own thing. You want to come and do Dio?
Well, you know that he had that record deal in place with Sabbath. He was planning on being in Black Sabbath, and then he was going to use that record deal to start do a solo record. and he was going to have all his different friends, musician friends, play on it. It wasn't going to be a band because he was in Black Sabbath. But as it progressed and things were getting not so cheery around Sabbath, he thought, you know what, I'm going to decide to put my own band together. So we were at the Rainbow again, and that's when he said to me, look, sitting there in the booth, and he turned to me, he said, I'm gonna leave the band, and I'm going to put a new band together. Would you like to join me? And I said, yeah, absolutely. How exciting, to be working with somebody that is like a brother, and this great singer, and something new, and he's in, right, we live close together. So I thought it was a good move to do that. And, Sabbath, they wanted me to stay with them, but I just thought this would be easier to do something new. I'm young. This is probably the time to do it. And Tony and Geezer were in England, so I just made the choice of I'll do it with Ron, And then we. But
when they brought in Ian Gillan, they had talked to you about wanting to stay at that point.
No, this was right after Ronnie left. I don't think there was any talk. There was no talk of Ian Gillan yet. This was fresh.
Right.
I don't remember Ian Gillan's name popping up. So, so I don't know. I think it was a matter of me just at that point going, look, I'm going to stay with you guys if you want me, and then what are we going to do? But I didn't hear Ian Gillan. I think this was before all that.
Hey, I only got about 3-4 minutes left before I have to end, but I want to give you an opportunity to talk about what's going on with you now, because you always got something cooking. Are you working on a new Last in Line record? Where are things at with you musically right now?
We got half the album pretty much done, and we're working with ideas across. We're a band that has to be in a room together, so it's hard to, send files back and forth to create something now. But we're doing that. We got a cover song in mind that we're working on. And then we'll get together soon and finish the rest of the record. And we're going for a new label as well. Got a label that's it looks like it's going to happen. And then we got some dates coming up. We're waiting to see what Def Leppard's schedule is. We don't know what's going on yet exactly with the big stadium tour. We don't know what they're going to do this year, because we usually play in between Viv's schedule with Def Leppard. So we'll wait and see. But we have dates in October so far, and then if we open up, we do some maybe in the summer. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. So I've just been doing a lot of online stuff, which is cool.
I think in terms of playing, I think what we're seeing is I think, as much as I hope it happens for everybody, I think it's highly unlikely that stadium level tour is going to be able to happen as soon as June, which is when they're supposed to kick off. I just don't see any way that happens that soon. So I think, though,
there's no sports event, so how could you all of a sudden put a big rock show on?
Right. I think everybody realizes. I mean, just like last time, it's pretty unlikely that it probably gets kicked into next year or late this year in warmer climates. I don't know, but that's a good thing for Last in Line, because for guys like Vivian who have a side band that plays at a club level, you can go out and play. That's going to clear some time, so that might be a great window for you guys.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping, and then maybe by the summer, we'll be able to book a bunch of gigs and get out there and play, and then finish the album, and a lot of things going on, and because everything's stagnant now. I've been doing a drum show every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific time for my drum company, and that kept me in shape. I've been doing it for 9 months. We're doing really good with that. Luckily for that, because it makes me practice. Otherwise it's easy to sit around and go, well, I'm going to go check my email. And here I'm setting the whole thing up. I'm practicing, coming up with new ideas and playing. So it's been a crazy, crazy year.
And you're doing something, because I just got reached out about doing this with you guys. You and your brother doing an interview show, right? A YouTube thing, because they asked me to come on as a guest soon.
Yeah, we're doing that. On Tuesday's my thing, and then on Thursday at 4 p.m., we have a show with Ron Onesti, who owns the Akata Theater in St. Charles, Illinois. Everybody's played there. And he's like the host. and we've had a lot of people on. We had Nico McBrain on, just a ton of people, Ted Nugent, and this Thursday it's Simon Kirk and Kenny Aronoff, and we just sit there and we have a great time. We tell stories, we have a great laugh. So we're booking it. Yeah, it'd be great to have you on. It would be lovely.
They booked me. It must have been light. They must have been in a jam for a guest because they booked me for it a couple weeks ago. So I'm going to do it with you guys. No,
but they're trying to book more people down the line, and we're getting a lot of people. We've done a tribute to Eddie Van Halen when he passed. A couple of weeks later, we had about 6 guitar players on. Did a tribute to Leslie West. We had Corky Lang and Buck Dahmer. It's getting to be really cool, and it's a fun time. And we'd love to have you on the show. That would be so. All
you musicians trying to become broadcasters during this pandemic. I told each and every one of you, I'm going to learn how to play an instrument. I'm coming for your gig in a year or two. Everybody's got something.
You got to reinvent yourself. Crazy.
Listen, man, I got to run. It's always great talking to you. I hope to see you soon. I hope when travel starts up, I'll catch you out there in LA. We'll get to hang a little bit, and I appreciate the time as always. Good talking.
Thank you, Eddie. Good to be here. Good to talk to you. Be safe, and thanks everybody for listening to all this great stuff. Funny.
All right, Vin. I'll see you soon, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. There he goes, everybody. The great Vinny Appice.